I'm not her, you know. Maria told me about Sarah and...
No.
Come on, baby girl, I gotta get you up. Come on. Come on, get up. Come on, baby girl. Come on.
I'm sorry about your daughter, Joel. But I've lost people too.
You have no idea what loss is.
Everybody I have cared for has either died or left me. Everybody fucking except for you! So don't tell me that I'd be safe with somebody else, because the truth is, I would just be more scared.
You're right. You're not my daughter. And I sure as hell ain't your dad.
Let me go.
You just come after her.
It is apparent that we are finally getting a point in life where video game adaptations are becoming good. Really, really good. The Last of Us Season 1 is over, and in my first impressions video, I stated how it looked like they would stay faithful to the original game, which is a masterpiece of storytelling, and they add necessary things that contribute to the original game's already captivating story filled with rich emotion. When it comes to the story, the Last of Us game is a perfect story, and it has character studies that is also one of the best in gaming. You got a video game that is just a beauty here. The Last of Us show takes perfect elements of the game and somehow, miraculously, makes things even more perfecter, if that was a word. The series follows Joel, played by Pedro Pascal, a smuggler tasked with escorting the teenage Ellie, who's played by Bella Ramsey, who holds the cure for the disease of a zombie-infected world, and they travel across a post-apocalyptic United States. The Last of Us series is a show that is an equal delight to fans who have never played the game and those who know the game like the palm of their hand. Now, some people may argue that the story of the show lacks cohesion. For example, in the game you play as Joel and sometimes Ellie. The main focus are these two characters who dynamic complement each other well throughout each chapter. They run into characters that serve emotional lessons for the two's relationship, but throughout the game the main focus is always on them. In the show, the main focus is on Ellie and Joel, but some episodes stray away from them to give more development to the side characters from the game. People who are looking strictly for the main characters journeying through each minute of the episode may be disappointed, but the writing and development for the side characters are the best addition to the show. The fact that episodes take Joel and Ellie out of the episodes for a bit works more than you would think. For new fans, it may not make sense, but it serves a purpose. It makes this already dreary world sadder and gives a broader understanding on how the zombie-infested has changed humanity. Also, once again, as previously said, adds new things and switches stuff up from the game to keep things fresh and intriguing throughout.
Come on. Come on, get up. Come on, baby girl. Come on.
The Last of Us game opens with Joel's daughter Sarah. She's asleep on the couch and she wakes up when Joel comes through talking on the phone about his job. It turns out it's Joel's birthday. Sarah fixes his watch and gives it to him. She drifts off while watching a movie with him and he carries her to bed. Sarah wakes up to loud noises and things aren't what they seem to be. She finds Joel, who is downstairs, and he shoots the neighbor who has been acting bloodthirsty. Uncle Tommy comes and picks them up. We see the town and everyone is in a panic. They get injured while in the town. He carries Sarah through the panic. Sarah gets shot by a soldier and dies in Joel's arm, making one of the best openings in any video game. And that was only 10 minutes. The Last of Us series takes that and expands on it instead of just being a copy. I love that they added never before seen things that weren't in the game instead of doing it all verbatim. When you just take what's been done and add nothing, it feels pointless. We start off in the morning. Sarah's trying to fix Joel a birthday breakfast. Tommy comes in and they joke around a bit.
Your t-shirt's inside out.
Shit. He's losing it.
When they are about to go get in the truck to drop off Sarah for school, the neighbors ask for Sarah to come by later to help with baking cookies. Sarah gets to school, Sarah gets out and goes to a clock shop. Police drive by fast and urgently, sure nothing's wrong with that. The clock shop closes early, Sarah goes to the neighbor's house. Sarah leaves and gets home at nighttime. Joel comes in late for work, and that's when everything that happens next is what happens in the game.
It's nice, but I think it's stuck. It's not.
What? No. Oh, ha ha.
Where did you get the money for this?
Drugs. I sell hardcore drugs.
It's better when I do.
It was only $20.
Sarah doesn't die at the 10-minute mark, but instead 30 minutes in. While the game still holds the cake for an amazing emotional scene, rewatching this as a show hit equally as hard because of what was added beforehand. The show lets us follow Sarah through a whole day into her final night with Joel, and it causes the death to be almost as equally wrenching as the game version. This is how you adapt an already great piece of work, by adding things that fit into the already well-established narrative that was left out of the previous work. It's different from the game, but the new additions don't feel forced, but instead it comes off like its own separate thing from the original, while also helping it out by having more story beats that still ties in everything nicely in the end. It's a slow burn, but it pays off extremely well. Following along Sarah all day is what sold me on this idea. I love the build up to the chaos that ensues that night. It adds a lot to an already effective story.
If she so much as twitches. Don't.
Each episode of The Last of Us is great, however, if it was my pick for the worst episode, it would be this. In fact, it isn't bad whatsoever, nor is it good, it's a great episode. In this episode, Joel and his partner Tess escort the young Ellie through a biological contamination area in Boston to reach the Massachusetts State House. It feels like the main draw from this episode is to take in how the outside world is away from the quarantine. It looks exactly like the video game. Crumbled buildings, crushed desks, dirty terrains and rubble spread throughout the land, and bodies floating in water. The atmosphere is intense and effective. However, it does feel like the episode is just waiting until we get to the part where Tess separates from Joel and Ellie. Anna Torv's performance is powerful in this episode. She takes the character of Tess and gives justice to the game counterpart of her. Then we get to the scene with the clickers, and the design of them are so close to the game it's haunting. It perfectly encapsulates the terrifying creatures. When Tess does meet her end, it was met with some backlash. In the game, her death is off screen, but here there's a lot more to it. It's a death scene that's eerie and extremely creepy. I get why people hated this, but for me personally, I enjoyed the execution. But if this is the worst episode, how does the show bounce back? With the best episode in the entire series so far.
And time washes clean.
People called this a masterpiece of television when it came out, one of the best episodes ever made. Damn, well, I'm thinking, yeah, it was exceptional. In the game, Bill was the guy who you just went to for a truck. While his character was entertaining due to the banter between him and Ellie, it was honestly one of the least captivating moments of the game. They took this aspect and made it the most captivating part of the entire show. In the game, it is mentioned through dialogue that he is gay and he finds his lover hanging. In the show, we get over half of the runtime dedicated to Bill having a whole town to himself, until one day Frank pops up and we see a hauntingly poignant story about the passing of time between two men falling in love through the trials of a zombie-infected world. Bill as a character arguably gets the most depth out of any character in the game, and it works perfectly. No flaws in this episode whatsoever. The performances between Nick Offerman and Murray Bartlett are outstanding. The believability of their love and hardships is displayed delightfully and fearlessly with the acting and direction of this episode. The ending is tragic and daring, and this episode is proof that the video game adaptation genre can be made and perfected.
Did you know diarrhea is hereditary?
What?
Yeah. It runs in your genes.
In this episode, Joel and Ellie encounter an ambush in Kansas City, Missouri. Elsewhere in the city, bandit leader Kathleen her second-in-command Perry, and their group search for Henry and his brother Sam. If you're familiar with the story of both the game and the show, you'll know that Joel is a man who has closed himself off after the death of his daughter. When he is paired up with Ellie to escort her to a place where they can make the cure to get rid of the zombie outbreak, he hates the idea, but naturally through the relationship the two build, he opens up to her. This episode highlights that and is the one time in the show where I didn't cry from tragedy but from happiness. This whole episode slowly builds the relationship between the childlike wonder of Ellie and the more negative refrained Joel. Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal bounce off each other well, whether if one of them has a strong dislike to the other, or when Joel finally laughs out loud for the first time in a scene so happy it caused me to tear up. While I wasn't crazy for the new character Kathleen, who's missing from the original game, Melanie Lynskey gives a strong performance.
Endure and survive. Endure, survive. Endure, survive. Fuck yeah, man.
In this episode, Joel and Ellie agree to escape Kansas City, Missouri with Henry and his brother Sam, who are being hunted by the bandit leader Kathleen and her second-in-command. In the original game, the story of Sam and Henry is heartbreaking. The four of the characters travel to get out of the city, and Sam winds up getting infected. None of the characters know this, but in one of the best cutscenes in the game, we get a look on the childlike curiosity between Ellie and Sam as they talk about death and what it's like to be infected. The next morning, Sam has fully turned, causing his older brother to take his life and commit suicide. This episode changes the story here. We get to see a backstory of Henry and Sam hiding from Kathleen as Henry tries to keep things positive for Sam, who knows only communications with sign language. It's a change I wasn't expecting, but it was a welcome change that helps us stray away from being just a copy of the original source material, and it helps the relationship between the two brothers become more fragile. The two travel alongside Joel and Ellie to get outside the city just like the game. At night, Kathleen and her crew find them and are still destined to kill Henry and Sam. That's when from underground the zombies break loose and the best action set piece of the show happens. Sam does wind up infected and Ellie has been communicating with him through a board. In this version, Sam actually shows Ellie the night before, and we get the same scene from the game, but the narrative has changed, as we see Ellie try to heal him with her blood, and it's more heartbreaking knowing that she expects it to work, and when she wakes up, he has turned and the brothers are shot dead. In this scene, Bella Ramsey outdoes Ashley Johnson's performance in the death of Henry and Sam, which seemed impossible by one small detail. When they both die, Ashley Johnson Ellie says, which is believable, but we don't see her face when Henry dies. In the show, we see Bella Ramsey's face, and the whimper she does when it happens struck an emotional chord with me.
Give me the gun. Give me the gun, Henry. Give me the gun. Henry, no! You're right. You're not my daughter. And I sure as hell ain't your dad. Now come dawn, we're going our separate ways.
In this episode, Joel and Ellie travel to Jackson, Wyoming, where they find Joel's brother Tommy and his wife Maria. This episode contains my personal favorite cutscene in the game, which is between Ellie and Joel. It's a heartbreaking scene where Joel finally realizes he may not be cut out to get Ellie to her destination, but the show explores this more, where we see that Joel has started to like Ellie, but he doesn't want to get too attached knowing he already lost his daughter. The scene does the game justice, and once again Pedro Pascal and Bella show that they were the perfect cast for the role of Joel and Ellie. In the end of the episode, Joel is greatly injured, and it ends with Ellie trying to bring him back to regular health.
Just be all poetic and shit and lose our minds together.
As Joel fights to survive, Ellie flashes back to the night that changed everything. So when I review both games, I never talked about the DLC. The DLC is short and sweet and shows light in the zombie-infested world as we see a younger Ellie and Riley travel through a mall and relive some young innocence. They play games and go through some costumes and just have a blast until it all ends with Riley being infected along with Ellie. Riley dies, but Ellie survives because she is the cure and can't get infected. This episode could have been shorter, but the main highlight is Bella Ramsey and Storm Reed's chemistry of Ellie and Riley. They are totally believable. After crossing paths with a vengeful group of survivors, Ellie's fighting spirit draws unwanted attention from their leader. A weakened Joel faces off with a hunting party out for blood. This is my favorite segment of the first game. This is Ellie's turning point as a character when she fights back against David, a man who eats human flesh. She ends up murdering him brutally, and it's the moment where the innocence of Ellie truly turns into a more vengeful, angry person. The show does this exceptionally well and adds more layers to David. In this version, he's somehow worse, since he feeds the human meat to other survivors, but is a hypocrite because he preaches about the beauty of God and doesn't tell them about it. It makes the atmosphere even more intense than it was previously, and Bella Ramsey's performance in here is where she peaks.
It's me. Okay. It's okay, baby girl. I got you. I got you.
Joel and Ellie arrive at the Fireflies base, but learn that they have to make one last sacrifice. Out of all the episodes, this one definitely plays it straightforward beat by beat like the game, but the emotions that are felt in the final chapter of the game are still present here. The rage you feel knowing Marlene takes Joel out of the hospital after she says Ellie will go through surgery is still present, and there's still heartbreak of the lie he tells Ellie. But the best moment is without a doubt Ashley Johnson, who played the original Ellie, as she portrays her mom here, and gives a lot more backstory to Ellie that was needed. All in all, each episode of The Last of Us is great in ways that can't describe. While it stays extremely faithful to the original source material, it adds depth to characters that definitely could have needed it in the original game. Characters like Bill get some of the best exploration in any video game to show/movie adaptation I've seen yet. So many of these new elements work because the game plays it like a straight path, while the show branches off to different characters and stops the development of Ellie and Joel to explore characters that could use some more work. Therefore, I feel like this wouldn't work that well in a game because the pacing would be all over the place. The acting of Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey gives justice to the original actors of Joel and Ellie. They totally capture the two emotions from the games. They give it their all, and the relationship between the two is sweet and develops nicely over the time alongside the exploration of other characters. The cinematography is beautiful and the sets are fully realized. The shots through the show bring the game's set pieces to life and broaden its horizons. The Last of Us is a show that truly shows that you can take a game that was already like a movie and bring more depth with perfect execution.
So, is it everything you hoped for?
It's got its ups and downs. But you can't deny that view.